Good morning. Glad you're here today as we celebrate a Beyond Our Walls Sunday. Now, what we're doing today is we're talking to some of the leaders and some of the volunteers from our food bank. In the midst of the pandemic, it's been hard to have a lot of our ministries going on. But the food bank has not only kept going, but we've actually grown and increased in how many people we're serving, how much food we're handing out, all those types of things. You're going to meet each of these people here. Each one of them is an integral part of our food bank. But I'm going to start here with the woman who is in charge of the whole operation, Linda Schlechter. Linda, give us a quick recap of what the food bank is exactly.
The food bank is serving about 250 to 270 families via drive-up a week, thanks to Laura and her group, her volunteers up there. We're also giving food to about 150 vets. We've done some outreach now. We're providing some food to a couple of women's shelters. And then also we started a children's cooking program.
Yeah, my name is Joshua Fleming. I'm the program manager of the YE shelter with Do Good Multnomah. Do Good Multnomah is a nonprofit that seeks to provide emergency shelter and long-term permanent supportive housing for homeless veterans in the Portland metropolitan area. The food that's in my car right now going to the shelter is going to literally put warmth and nourishment and joy into the veterans that we serve. We can bring them into a building, but without the food from Crossroads and all the other resources we get from our supporting partners, we really can't make it a home. I've managed programs for Do Good before, and this is my first time getting the privilege to come and work with you guys here at Crossroads, and some of the things that are in there are not the things that you would usually expect to eat within a homeless shelter. Some of the nice things that you guys have given us are really going to not only show humanity, but show dignity and respect and kindness to these guys. Let them know that somebody out there not just only wants to get them fed as a human being, but really wants to show them honor and respect, and that's a huge deal.
Laura Heiner has really kind of taken the reins as the pandemic hit and as we had to change, because before COVID, people would actually come into the building. They'd have little shopping carts that they would push around in there. After COVID, we had to move it out into the parking lot. Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I got laid off from work and I was bored. So I contacted the food bank and said, what can we do? And Linda said, we're doing this drive-through thing. Okay, and I went out there and started doing the thing, and it was on one side of the parking lot. Anyway, looked at Eric, and Eric looked at me and said, what if we moved it over? We could fine-tune it in his little mathematical brain. We could get X amount of cars in, and et cetera. But we didn't want to step on any toes. Turns out the person that was doing the drive-through stepped down, and Linda looked at Eric and I and said, you two, you got this. And I was, what do we got? We got milk? What? Got milk? What do we got? And then all of a sudden, people started pointing at Eric and I saying, they're in charge. What? So there we go.
And actually, I do remember that the people who started doing it out in the parking lot, wonderful volunteers. I know one of them was the chairman of our elders, Ron Hamilton. Unfortunately, they were all over 60, and that's the age group that we're saying we don't want to put you at risk. So we had to fire basically almost all of our volunteers, and that's when...
Thank you for making me feel so young right now. Just letting you know.
Amen. And that's when people like Laura really stepped up and started leading. Joe Totemeyer, who is one of our elders and is way under the age of 60. Amen, Joe?
49 and a half, I think.
Yep. And you lose a hair for every lie you tell. Joe is one of our volunteers. Now, Joe, about how many people does it take on a weekly basis to make this thing go?
On a weekly basis?
Yeah.
Including the volunteers that put food in the boxes.
Everybody.
There's people that move pallets. I'm the PMG. I'm the pallet moving guy. So we have, 50?
About 50 to 60, yeah.
50 to 60 on a regular basis. Putting food in boxes, moving pallets up here, getting the cones and everything put out. Glenn's a good guy. He's here early on Tuesday morning setting up all of the cones for directions and everything so the traffic can come in and flow without causing too many wrecks on 102nd there. And Eric designed the whole thing originally, and we got 2 lanes of traffic coming in. We've got pallets coming up from the food bank, pallets going everywhere. Food delivered on Mondays and Tuesdays, and
There's a lot of moving parts to this,
a lot of moving
aren't there?
parts.
Okay. John Simonton is sitting right here to my right. And John, before we started, you were described to me as the instigator. That the Christmas project that the food bank did this last year, John was the one who had suggested that because he had done similar work like that in California. So John, tell us a little bit about that.
I work for a food bank there. It's from based on a non-denominational church there, ran it. We contacted local churches, and one of the things of Southern California, because of the population and the wealth there, is you get a lot of large churches and the mega churches, and they would do toy donations, but they'd have the toys sit there because they didn't really have the means to distribute them, and that's what this food bank decided to do. And it was just so encouraging to me because I felt kind of like a thin Santa Claus, you know. I felt like I was actually doing a part and helping, because it was more than just the food or the sustenance for these folks at this time, but it was also a gift for the children, and it went over really well. That's what gave me the idea, and I kind of talked to Linda about it, and it kind of planted the seeds for her, and then I needed to go visit family during that time, so she took it from there and did a great job.
Now, Linda, tell us more about the Christmas project then, and do give us some numbers. How many kids, and how did we pick this particular school?
Well, like we said, John planted the seed. Boy, John, was it back in September or before that? Earlier than that?
You were chewing on it for a while.
A long while. And then all of a sudden, November came. Let's do this. And I think it was November 9th that we decided to move forward with this project. We decided to choose a school, one that was in the suburbs that probably wouldn't be getting gifts. Inner city, typically, most of the children in inner city do get gifts. So we chose Cornelius. Cornelius was 95% Hispanic, and most of the kids there were, underprivileged kids. And so we decided to get gifts for each one of the children. That was 380 children we were going to get gifts for. Then all of a sudden it was, well, wait, this isn't fair. They all have siblings that'll be coming, and as they're getting gifts, the siblings need to get something. So then it became 590 stockings, Christmas stockings that we filled. Well, wait a minute, we have excess food here, so why don't we give everybody a food box? And that was 350 some families for food boxes.
Now, I understand, and I actually saw it myself,
Yeah.
when you delivered the packages, it required a semi-truck.
We contacted Par Lumber. One of our volunteers works at Par Lumber, said, hey, I think Par Lumber would like to get involved in this. So I contacted Par Lumber. They were on board. We took the barrels to each Par Lumber. They loaded toys in there. And there was a huge semi. I don't know how big that semi was. How big?
40 foot.
40-foot semi. It was loaded. Par Lumber was driving down the street all the way to Cornelius. And we had volunteers from our food bank there to distribute the toys and the food, but also Par Lumber and then the school. They were so excited. They're asking us to do it another year. So we'll see. We'll see.
I noticed how you sneaked that in there just slowly. Oh, by the way, we're doing it again.
Well, I have to tell you. So the toy giveaway was December 16th, wasn't it? 17th? So from the 11th of November, when we first started planning this, to the 16th of December, or 17th of December, all of this came together. We had toys for every child. We had our elderly elves, we call them. They're not old. They were just our elder wives here that were wrapping all the gifts and stuffing all the stockings. It all came together. And then on the 18th of December, I was notified by Channel 8, oh, Linda, we have toys from this year's toy drive for you. So we took a truck down there and we loaded up toys, which we now have for next year.
That's fantastic. And I noticed these are not dollar store toys.
Oh,
These were
no.
These were
we
expensive
figured,
toys.
We figured every toy was $20 to $30 each.
And next year, would it be possible to have some of them not in the wrapper? So if we want to make sure the toys work and.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm asking for a friend.
Well, wait a minute. I have to talk to the team and see what the team wants to do.
Yeah, they said it's fine.
But I do want
talked
to tell you, Chris.
All right, moving on, Linda.
Wait a minute. We did provide batteries for all of the toys too. I want you to know.
It's just made a huge difference. We've never had the opportunity to offer this type of support to our families. And in this very strange, unprecedented time of quarantine, we need this for our families. It gives hope. It gives connection between the school and the families, and the school and the parents. I mean, imagine a parent wanting to be able to give to their child, but not having the means. And so the school is able to help through Crossroads Church, help the parent connect with the school, help the parent connect with the child, help the child connect with the school. It's a beautiful cycle.
You were very well organized for a short event, and we're already talking about doing it again next year, and maybe extending out to the east side and running out of the Gresham area as well, if we can figure that out. So, good.
Yeah, thanks for letting us be a part of it.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on here. Eric, tell us about the children's cooking program, how that came about and what that involved, and how many people came through for that.
Yeah. Well, so the idea came from Linda. I don't know where she got the idea. So the program is called Healthy Eats for You Too, or HE for You Too. And over the course of about 4 months, we put together 15 or 16 recipes. They're all kid-friendly. You've got trail mix and kale chips, apple crisp, stuff like that. And a friend of mine is a graphic artist, so she's been putting together the recipe cards. They're got cartoon characters on them and all that. And so basically every Tuesday we would put together about 100 of these boxes. Boxes include ingredients and utensils and the recipe cards and whatever else they might need. And we'd set up in the south parking lot and hand them out to all the families with kids. So over those 4 months, we had over 400 families pick up at least one box. That represents well over 1,000 kids. So the program actually ended up on the news. KGW did a story on it, and I think I've heard it's run about 10 or 12 times now. Linda had mentioned the Boys and Girls Club as a group we wanted to work with, and they actually got in contact with us. And so we're working with them now to figure out the details of phase 2. They have about 400 kids every week, and once the pandemic is over, that number goes up significantly. So we're trying to figure out the logistics of doing all that.
Now we're going to sprinkle this mixture onto the kale. Sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. Once they're done cooling, you can try one. Scrumptious.
Oh, they're so much fun. It's so much experience and textile and hands-on and experience in the kitchen, healthy eating. It's very forward to it. It's been amazing. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Brian, when this started back last spring, really, You had a lot of the youth group kids involved in helping out. How'd they do?
They did great. Yeah, Laura contacted me asking if there were any middle schoolers or high schoolers who were willing to help. We decided it would be better for high school only in this capacity, but we have been looking for ways to get the middle schoolers and high schoolers back involved. They were helping, our high schoolers were helping all through spring and summer, but once school started back up, they had to start attending classes via Zoom, but during the time that the food bank operates. But yeah, they did great, and it was great being able to serve alongside them, helping our community.
Sweet. Good morning. Good morning. How are we?
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Doing two families?
Yes.
Two families in the very back. Okay. Let's get you loaded up. We got some more veggies coming your way in a second, and then you'll be on your way. Hey, good morning. How's it going?
Now, I have a question for you, because I notice every week you're out there, and you're one of the people that actually puts the food into the cars. I have no idea. Seriously, I've never done that aspect of it. I have no idea. How do you guys decide what goes in each box and what one car? And if somebody comes up and says, I'm lactose intolerant and all that, what do you do?
So my specific role is, like was said earlier, we have 2 lanes coming through the parking lot. When we get under the archways, the overpasses, it shrinks down to 1 lane, merges down. And so my role is bringing in the cars one at a time, and I figure out how many families are in each car, are represented in each car, and we give 1 box full of food. How that's determined, I don't know. That is pre-packaged by other volunteers throughout the week. But we give 1 box of food per family, and then usually we have some fresh dairy, eggs, milk, cheese, meat that we also give. If a family is big enough, we'll give some extra of that stuff, but it's 1 box per family, and from there it goes on to the next stop, which is bread, chips, fruits and veggies, and that kind of stuff.
How do you determine what goes in a box? How is that decided?
The volunteers at the food bank itself goes through each week, several volunteers all week long, and we just put in different food groups, canned foods, milk, whatever is available. So like when I train somebody new, I walk them through, get a box of not so healthy cereal maybe, something fun, something healthier, and then move on, and then we get a can of fruit, can of vegetables, this many soups, this many tunas, this many, and then the box is full. We put it on the pallet is shrink wrapped and then brought up.
So how many days out of the week is there somebody working at the food? I know we hand it out on Tuesdays, but how many days of the week are people working at the food bank?
About 7.
About 7?
Yep.
Okay.
We rotate people through, social distancing, filling boxes, just sorting, all kinds of stuff.
Well, and that brings up a question. Now let me just throw it open to anybody. When the pandemic is over, what's the food bank going to look like?
Well, prior to the pandemic, we were set up like a supermarket. Basically, you come in, take food off the shelves. You were allowed so many soups, so many this, so many that, and you were able to choose. So I believe that we'll be able to go back to that model again.
Okay.
We were open 2 days a week. 3 hours each day.
And you were probably spending, Wednesday getting ready?
Typically, we would get there early in the morning at 8 o'clock, stock the shelves, and Oregon Food Bank would bring their food in on a Monday, and we'd stock the shelves on a Monday, and then prior to opening up every day, we would just stock the shelves again and continue stocking the shelves as people were shopping, because we had volunteers that we call shoppers that were taking a client through and making sure a client, took two
Right.
soups or whatever. And then we had other volunteers that were actually continuously stocking throughout the time.
A couple things that we should mention, we've said this many times in the past. Before the pandemic hit, this food bank was the largest all-volunteer food bank in the state of Oregon, not just for churches, but for food banks, period. And since the pandemic has hit, it's gotten bigger.
It's gotten bigger.
They fed more people, had more volunteers. And we also should mention somebody's name. Obviously, it's not just the people that you see up here that make the food bank go. This is just a representative of some of the volunteers and some of the leaders. There are many, many more, but we should mention Carol Whittington for how many years? So many years, yeah. Just basically ran that thing, built that thing, is still actively involved in the food bank now. And so she built a lot, really laid the foundation for the food bank to be able to expand on the fly in the midst of a crisis.
Absolutely. For 10 years, Carol managed that food bank and did an amazing job.
All right, Brian, you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, so going back to your question, when the pandemic is over, what will the food bank look like? I don't know all the details, but Linda and I have already had brief conversations about getting the youth group more involved. Seeing the high schoolers serving each week through the spring and summer was great, and I still hear them talking about how much they enjoyed it and how they wish they could keep doing it. And so that's one of my hopes, is that after the pandemic, once schedules are figured out more, that we can get our youth group to be involved more.
All right, Laura, I do have a question for you. The Tuesday before Christmas, what was it like when they were handing out food? What were the volunteers wearing? And remember, Eric, we'll be putting up pictures here.
So the Tuesday, the last Tuesday before Christmas, I just may have asked them, if you feel led to do so, wear something festive.
It got out of hand pretty quick, didn't it?
It was so much fun. I was dressed as Elf. Back here, he was Bunny. What's his name?
It was the pink rabbit.
The pink rabbit from the Christmas Story. There was blinkies and hats and get-ups and sweaters, and the entire drive-through, from the time you checked in over here, there was 4 different Pandora stations of Christmas music. I may have broken out and danced a few times, but it was a blast. We had so much fun.
All right, let me ask, and I'll just throw this open to anybody. What's the most interesting thing you've seen so far in volunteering? And John, you're being handed a microphone, so tell us something interesting that has happened since you've been volunteering here.
I am going to respond that I think the most amazing thing is the leader you have right now of Linda. When I see her work, she does literally all the tasks there. I mean, she'll be packing boxes one minute, then she's loading the shelves, she's lifting them, she's lifting pallets out of the way, she does all the work, and then after everybody exits, she's mopping the floors. And I mean, as you know from pastoring a church, that's an amazing thing, is to see somebody that's in leadership that's willing to take on all the roles. I mean, right from the top to bottom. I've even asked her, I said, why do you do all this? I mean, to be the executive director, you're kind of taking a lot of the heat or some responsibility. And so anyway, I wanted to know that. And she says, I've just spent my whole life doing this. I used to do it with my children. It's so ingrained in me, and I've just continued forward with it. So that's the most amazing thing to me. You expect everybody to come in and maybe do just a little bit, and kind of skirt around some duties. Well, I'll pack the box, but I don't really want to clean up. You don't get a lot of people that want to do the janitorial, and she's right there. I mean,
she's willing to do anything.
So, yeah, absolutely.
All right, Linda, I need somebody to fill the pulpit on the 28th of next month. I'll call you, all right?
I didn't pay him to say any of this. I want you to know.
She does walk on water, too.
All right, anybody else? What's the most interesting thing that you've seen? Yeah, Joe.
I think the most amazing thing that I saw was one Saturday I came here in the morning expecting just one semi full of food to be unloaded, and ended up working all day because we had 4 semis of food come in that day, and we were scrambling to find people to take all the food because we had so much food, and it was just amazing that.
So what did you learn about wandering in here on your day off, Joe?
Plan on working longer than 3 or 4 hours that day. So,
okay.
It's just amazing that we called different food banks and different people, and we were able to feed people all over. We had one guy come with his pickup, take 2 pickup loads of food to the homeless people that he knew where they were at.
You know, Joe, I do remember early on in the pandemic, you were telling me that you had called Joe to come, because he was supposed to work at the food bank. You called him up and said, okay, hey, we need you here now. You ended up, you had called the wrong Joe. And the wrong Joe showed up and worked all day and then became a volunteer. That's awesome.
I'll name him. Joe Perez actually came.
Joe Perez actually came in, yeah.
Been working with me, picking up stuff with the forklift and moving it around.
That is fantastic.
Did you need to call him at the very beginning?
Nope.
Now he's our volunteer.
Called the wrong Joe.
Oh, that's awesome.
The wrong Joe.
And the wrong guy. So if you get a phone call.
If your name's Joe, we need you.
All right, anybody else? Most interesting thing that you've seen in this whole experience?
Well, just kind of following up with what Joe said, that day, the semi-trucks just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. But we provided food for food banks all the way from Hood River to Canby to Welch's to Banks, Oregon.
Wow.
We were on the phone. We had no idea how we could get rid of all of this food. Oh, yeah. And all I kept saying is, oh my golly, Chris is just gonna, he's gonna just be so angry if he sees all this food out there in the parking lot. We gotta get rid of it some way. And lo and behold, we got rid of it in 2 days. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All of it.
Well, to tell you what happened, I didn't even know that it had happened until after all the food was gone.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So you're off the hook this time. Okay. But I will be calling you about the 28th. Eric, most interesting thing that you've seen?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's the quantity of stuff that we go through is just kind of shocking. And the fact that we'll get a delivery one day and a couple days later it's all sorted in. It's just the number of volunteers that we have that are just working in the background, getting everything organized and all that stuff. You know, I'm mostly here on Tuesdays, but the volume of work that goes on behind that delivery is just it's hard to comprehend, honestly. I also want to mention all the volunteers who handle the check-in process. For each car, we have to get basic information like the name, zip code, and eligibility. And we've had to change this process 3 or 4 times because of changes in the government requirements and the food bank requirements and so on. And all the people who've been doing this, they do it rain or shine, and sometimes a lot of rain. And every week they manage to keep the line running smoothly.
I want to thank you guys for being up here. As we said, this is just the tip of the iceberg of the volunteers that are here making this food bank run. But it really also depends on our church family, on the prayers, on the financial support, on your willingness to help out as well. Because, Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's always room for more volunteers.
Can I intervene?
Yep.
I got a lot of volunteers by saying please and offering donuts. And you too can come get donuts.
Hey, can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Helen Wagner is good at bringing the donuts and desserts and all that kind of stuff, and she has been able to get stuff that I'm just amazed that's out there, and she brings stuff all the time and huge.
And Helen, like a lot of our other volunteers, is under the age of 60.
Yes.
Sure. Happy birthday, Helen. Again, we want to thank our people here for sharing about this. We want to ask you to continue to pray for the food bank ministry. The pandemic is going to end, but this food bank ministry is going to continue on in other forms after this is all over. When this began, if you recall, I said to the church, this is a dark time, and that's when God's light shines the brightest. So we want to thank God, thank our volunteers for the opportunity to shine this light in our community. Thank you.